and welcome everybody, and thank you very much for coming here to the Old Manse in Kirkmichael. This is our third session trying to collate memories of the village. And first of all, I would just like you to introduce yourselves and just say how long you've been in the village or where you live, just a sentence or two. So we're starting off just in a clockwise direction with Alison here.
I'm Alison Duffy and I moved here in 1989. Is that right? Yes. No, 1981. We moved into the old cottages up at Giltree Hill and did them up, turned two cottages into one. And then we moved down into the village in 1989 and stayed for 2 years in a house in Portcheek. And on the edge of Portcheek and Dyrock Road, and then while our house was being built in Barcannock Road, where we have been ever since.
Thank you. Patrick.
I'm Patrick Lorimer, and I was born in Ayr, grew up in Ayrshire, and came back to Kirkmichael in, as Alison was saying, in 1989. Okay. And we bought this house, and have restored it, and it's very nice to have everyone here.
Thank you.
It's very nice to be here.
Alan, please.
Alan Dees. I moved to Kirkmichael in the mid-1960s. I lived outside the village in a cottage called North Bray, which is halfway between here and Cross Hill. I now live about 200 yards away from this house. And I've been here in this house since about 1976, I think. Can't quite remember. I'm a local artist. I've been doing that for the last 30 years. And prior to that, I was a professional yacht skipper. There's a whole lot before that, but that's about as far back as I probably go.
Betty is with us again, but just remind us.
Betty Thompson. I was born in Kirkmichael in 1939, just across the road from where Alan stays. I was there until we moved up to Old Style Crescent, and then when I got married, I moved round the corner to Woodside Avenue, and I've been there ever since.
Thank you. Kay.
I'm Kay Hunter, or Kay McGowan, as most people in Kirkmichael know me. The people here know me as Kay Hunter, but most of the long-time residents of Kirkmichael know me before I was married. It was Kay McGowan. The McGowans were a family that have been in Kirkmichael since the 1880s, continuously, but I'm the last of the McGowan, well, except I'm now a hunter. But my son tells me I'm not a real hunter, because I'm a McGowan. But there are not very many of us left. I was born in Kirkmichael and grew up in Kirkmichael, went to school, primary school, and then Carrick Academy, getting the bus from the bottom of the road for 6 years, and then went to Glasgow University. And there was a gap then, well, it wasn't a gap in that I didn't lose contact with the village because my mum and dad still lived here. So I was up and down all the time from Glasgow. Mm-hmm. But they had, I was born in the village down Burnside Row, but my dad it was my grandfather had the up at Windy Hill, he had it's 4 acres of land up there that belonged to my dad. And he built the house up there, and so I grew up at Windy Hill most of the time. And so I was back and forward between Glasgow and Windy Hill for many, many years, and got married and had a family up in Glasgow, Bearsden, but never lost contact with the village. And then when my husband and I retired, we were fortunate enough to get my granny's house on Patna Road, which needed, it was built in the 1780s but needed modernisation. And we've been doing it up for the last 13 years, I think it is now, something like that. And but I came back to my roots, if you like, which is really quite nice, because I know my way around, and I know a lot of people, and I've got to know a lot of new people. Although you've been here for a long time.
Your father was Dallas, is that
Dallas
right?
McCosh,
Dallas,
yes.
Just
Yes.
putting you in context.
I'll give you a really funny story, because I had a red setter, and the red setter used to go for its holidays to Dallas.
The Dallas runs, yes. Yes, a lot of people knew him because of that. But when we started off I shouldn't have started all these stories, but when we started off at Windy Hill, it was animals that we had. Before that, it was soft fruits. My grandfather had that land, and it was as over there was an awful lot of greenhouses and strawberry fields and things like that. And up there, that's what they did as well, gooseberries and strawberries. I can remember having to pick gooseberries. We didn't like them. And they jagged you, and you get jagged. It was horrible. But and then he had animals up there, so I grew. It was a small farm.
Yeah.
It was a small holding.
Right, thank you. We'll be coming back to your stories.
Caroline Lorimer, married to Patrick, so we've been here since 1990 in this wonderful house, which is still a work in progress. We're constantly doing things to it and doing the garden. And it's been a wonderful journey getting to know the village over the last 30 years. I was brought up in London, so it's a completely different feeling to live in a village. It's, I must say, 100% nicer. So that's what I feel about living here.
Right, okay, thank you. I know that Patrick has spoken a bit about the exterior of the manse and so on. Remind me again which year you moved in here?
1989.
1989,
Yeah.
And this was the old manse. The newer manse is just across the hedge there. And I say Patrick has given Colin a bit of information about the exterior of the building, etc. But we're going to concentrate not so much on the manse now, but just the stories which are associated with the village. And I'm going to start off with our one of our long-established ladies in the village, and that's Betty, because Betty was married in this month. So I'm going to, if you could tell us a wee bit, Betty, about when that was and so on.
When I got married in here.
Yes.
I was married in here in 1961. The reason being, we weren't having a big flashy wedding.
Yes.
And then, of course, again, we didn't have a lot of money. So one day we were discussing it down in Park Road with the minister, and he said, Betty, why don't you just get married in the manse? So that was how we came to be married in the manse.
And that minister was?
The Reverend J. Johnson.
Yes, I've heard of him before. So I'm not
There's
too
so
sure.
many people haven't heard of him.
I think he's quite an interesting character. So he was the minister then in charge. Was he married?
Yes.
He was married, right?
Can I ask, Betty, was his wife a very good gardener? Because the garden, when we took over the garden, it had got slightly in rack and ruin, but you could tell that there had been really good garden. It had been beautifully gardened before, so a lot of the shrubs and all the snowdrops and the crocuses that are in the garden were all here. And you think that somebody had really cared for it before we were here, which was lovely. So I tried to kind of put it back in a way. Yeah. I imagine, did Mrs. Johnson garden?
You know, she was a very quiet person.
I don't really see her very much, but there were one or two other ministers after him.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, Mr. Reverend Moffat was here for a long time. But even after, there was a Reverend Dryborough.
Yes. He
wasn't here long.
No. He actually christened Colin and Jim Miller and Alistair Reid. The three of them were christened in the one day.
Really?
And it was Dr. Driver that...
I don't know that I've heard of him much.
No, I haven't.
He wasn't here for very
Oh,
long. He was quite an old man when he came. I mean,
I think actually he was more or less kind of filling in for the next minister to
Right.
come.
Yes.
It was Mr. Moffat that married me and christened my two. That was in the early 80s.
Right.
Yeah, well, yes, the Reverend
So I
Moffat
don't
was
know.
here in 78.
Uh-huh, that'd be right.
Came,
Did one of them have a dog? Because on one of the doors upstairs there were wonderful scratches. And I remember thinking they must have had a dog, you know, that wanted to get in or out of this particular room.
Mr. Johnston didn't have a dog.
There was cats, but there was no any
Well,
dogs.
maybe not sure. The Gerald had a lot of cats.
Quite a big cat.
It would have been a big cat. There was something very nice about seeing these dog scratches on the floor.
trying to escape.
There's maybe a bride, a groom trying to get Betty, can I just ask, how was the room set up for your wedding?
Sorry?
How was this room set up for your wedding?
Was it in this room then?
Yes.
It was in this room.
Well, there was a big couch sat there that took up quite much space. But to be perfectly honest with you, when you get married, you're taking many surroundings. But you had a desk in this corner, and that was
Where you
beside
signed?
the register. And the best man and bridesmaid sat on the big couch there while the proceedings were going on.
You've left some photographs for us, so we'll be able to incorporate them into your story as well, which is very good of you. So that was a good day then, was had by all.
It was a good day we had.
What was your husband's name again? I've forgotten.
Hubert.
Hubert, that's right. And he was a great cyclist, wasn't he?
People always remember him on his bike.
Yes,
Yeah,
always
cycling
on his
around the
bike.
village.
Cycle for miles and miles.
It cycled the length and breadth of Britain
Yes.
and Ireland.
Oh my.
It is.
I always remember him with the...
Even when he was in his late 50s and he was working down at Girfin, he cycled to Girfin to his work and cycled back.
That was with only 3 years.
Good for you. Well, you've told us a wee bit generally about your memories, so I'm going to move on to think of the fact that this is an anniversary event for the McCosh Hall, and just really what memories you have of the McCosh Hall for a start, and which use or whatever. Just anything at all, the kind of activities you maybe went to or whatever over the course of the years.
Well,
I know it's changed a lot and progressed and all the rest, but
there was
really-
always a youth group downstairs. And of course there was carpet poles through where the shop now is. There was carpet poles in there. And then upstairs, on Monday we had badminton. On Tuesday we had ballroom dancing. On Wednesday we had badminton. And as I say, Thursday was the youth group and Friday was the dramatic club.
Wow.
that's
Yes,
amazing.
it's this youth group that Betty's talking about. My mother and father used to go to this youth group when they were in their 20s. You know, it was the young couples and things like that. It wasn't 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds. It was a wee bit more like that when I was going there, but it didn't. It kind of was petering out by that time. In its heyday, it was actually 20-year-olds and things like that, weren't they? I mean, it was an outing for
even
the
younger.
growing up.
And that, of course, the youth group for the younger ones was up in school. The
Oh,
schoolmaster took the youth group up there.
oh, very good.
And you had to be 16 before you could go join upstairs to all these other things.
So do you think was it maybe where you met your partners and things like that, no?
Well, I didn't meet mine.
No, but you didn't. But this would be a chance to meet folk, I
Can you
suppose.
remember, Betty, how often the dances? There were a lot of dances held.
Oh, and a
in the
Friday
hall.
night. Oh dear.
I mean, it wasn't every week, was it? Was
No,
it
it
once a
wasn't
month or
every-
so?
it
Because
wasn't
they used to
every
go. They used to have one in all the village halls.
There was
And
always
people, you would. I mean, I didn't. I was too young to be going to the dances because once again, as Betty said, you had to be 16 to go to anything really, you know. And I can remember going to them when I was 16. And they were quite good events, but what I remember about the dancing was, I was just there as a spectator at the beginning, you know, I thought it was amazing. I danced with my dad, you know, but the girls, the young, older than me, but you know, the girls who were out for a good night out would come in the door, up at the top of the stairs, in through the door, and then to cross the hall to go to the back of it to the changing rooms and the toilets. They were over behind the stage. The band was on the stage, you know, and they would go round the side of the stage to go through that door. But they came up and crossed the floor with their coats on, and they all had their rollers in. They had all their rollers in and a scarf over their head, and they walked, because I used to sit there and think, imagine being seen like that, you know, in public. And they crossed the hall, didn't they, Betty?
I don't remember.
Do you not remember? Well, I remember that because I was astounded that they would actually be seen out in public looking like we were the rollers in. But they would go out through there and into the changing room and get their coats off, the rollers out, brush their hair, and then come out with what do you call the beehives?
Yes.
Things like that. I can remember some of them, but their hair would all be done up and have their curls because you had to have curls, and but they had to keep the rollers in until the very last minute.
I'm just thinking there, I know when I went to dances in Ireland, and I know this is separate, but the men were on one side and the women
It
on
was
the
the
other.
same.
Is that the same?
That was the same.
Ah, that's interesting.
And it was
And you were
funny.
kind of either very bold and at the front of the pile, or else you'd given up and stood at the back because you thought nobody's ever going to pick me.
A number of the dances, there was always a whist drive before
Oh, I
it,
see.
and it was after the whist was finished that the men had the nerve to go across and ask when the old ones were away after that tea.
They were scary things, whist drives. They were absolutely terrifying because you'd go and I never knew how to play whist really, apart from playing at home. And you'd get, why did you put that down? Oh, I just played a card.
The progressive whist when you went round the table.
Yes.
They're very popular though.
And
They all had a tea afterwards.
Oh,
Yeah,
and tea.
it was a
And you had
big
to have everything
fuss was
very-
made of the tea,
And that was
wasn't it? I was never at them though.
It was after that the
The
dance.
dance, but they also had dances just for a dance.
Yes,
you mean?
yeah, oh yes.
That's the ones I'm thinking of. It
And
wasn't
not the
after
farmers' dances you're talking about.
No, not
Well,
particularly.
it was not. No, it was very special as well. The farmers were there. It was for everybody.
Right, okay.
You knew you had been dancing with a farmer if you were up for a need some real and the next morning you were up from there to there.
Yeah, brilliant.
And your feet were off the ground half the time as well.
So
They
was
lifted you up.
It would be traditional Scottish stuff then, was it?
Sorry?
Was it traditional
It was a
Scottish?
mixture. No. It was,
Not always.
No.
No.
It was that waltzes, quick steps, foxtrots,
Oh,
and
really?
house.
Real dancing.
That's it.
Betty, I know the name of the band. I
Oh,
remember there
the
was a
favourite one was McCosh from Maple. It was, what did you call them? What was the name of that band?
I don't know.
Oh, forget at the moment. But McCosh band was a
So what,
great band.
who was in the band? What did they have? A singer, obviously.
No
singer, just
Just
music.
the music.
Right, okay. What instruments?
Accordion. An
An
accordion.
accordion
There
and
was
a
always an
trumpet
accordion
and
and a saxophone or something like that, you know.
and things like that.
There were maybe only about four or
The
five.
drummer.
Five at the least.
But it wasn't so loud you couldn't talk like
No,
now.
no.
You can't talk
No.
the way it
It
is
wasn't
at the
like
moment.
And
that.
there would be no drink then.
Oh dear.
What about alcohol?
Oh,
No
you never
drink.
had drink to go into a pub. You were too keen to get to the house, down to the hall, to get to the stands.
I see.
You never thought of going into a pub.
Oh, right, okay. Which kind of takes me on to the pubs in a way. We did have, well, at least two pubs, the McClure and the Kirkmichael Arms. I don't know whether anyone has any memories or
Oh,
you.
lots.
No. Go for it, Alan.
The McClure was the hunting and fishing pub.
Yes.
Didn't
The
go in there.
guys with deer stalkers and plus fours went in there. and it could tend to be a bit rowdy. And there was a large pelmet above the window, and the trick was when you came in, you tried to throw your deer stalker for it to land on top of the pelmet. But it was so high you couldn't reach it to go out, so eventually it became a whole line of deer stalkers. The lady who ran it at that time was Mrs. Ray, and she ran a tight ship, no bad language, no swearing, and if you did, then you were out. And she ran it for a long time, and it changed hands several times, and we tended to use both pubs. You took your maiden aunt into the other one, into the Kirkmichael Arms, but it tended to be the guys in the McClure.
Was it men only mostly?
No, it wasn't.
In the McClure?
No, you could take ladies in, but they tended not to like it as much as the other one.
Michael Arms was nice, was genteel. I mean, when we first came, our first meeting was with, after we'd looked at the cottage one day, we came down into the village and went to the pub and met Betty Rue and Jean Wilson, both attired in their beautiful long tartan skirts. And we thought, oh, this is a nice place. So that was one of the really good things of moving to the village, was the pub.
My first night in the Kirkmichael Arms, I walked down from just outside the village where I live. It's 1 mile. So I walked down, and it was full of farmers. There was only the little bar at the back, there was only one bar in it. And there was about 6 inches of water in it, and all the farmers were stood in their wellies. And that happened lots of times, until they fixed the drain under the road.
Oh no. Before Mrs. Ray came into the top pub, it was 2 ladies that had it. It was Miss Somerville and Mrs. Main's, Johnny Main's sister. Nancy Main and Jane Somerville, that was who was in the top pub. I used to go, when I was a wee girl, but was just stayed down the road, to get lemonade. So I would go up to the pub to get a bottle of lemonade. And if I just was there and back, my mother knew that Mr. Andrew, the Glenside, was there because he was a dummy, to put it mildly. That's what he was. And I was scared of him when he started to speak, so my mum knew if I was just there and back down that he had been there. Otherwise I would have been there sitting eating crisps and that.
Well, in that top pub, you might remember this, I was never in it. Oh, well, I think I was at the door once, but I didn't really go in it. This is when I was a child, I'm talking about a long time ago. But the bar, I remember the bar, you went in and the bar was over like this, and there was a seat, a particular seat at either end of the bar, and it was for the 2 oldest clientele of the place. They had the seat at either end of it, but there was the first seat and the second seat, you know. And my grandfather, who lived in the house I've got just now, he used to go there on a Friday night, and he sat in the eventually he was in the second seat, but gosh, he sat there, he was desperate to get into the first seat, and that was considered to be really having achieved something, you know. And eventually he did.
And you was in the first seat.
I'm not sure because I mean this is a long time ago.
Well, I'll tell you.
Was it?
I'll tell you who was in the
Your
that
father
seat.
or something? No.
The Reverend G.A. Johnson. That's seat.
Well,
So he'd like to be tittle, did he?
Yes,
Well,
and
you
he used
thought
to
that's
come
where
out with a wee
accommodation
half
was?
bottle in his back pocket.
Oh, well, I dug up a lot of those half bottles out of that flower bed. They were there, and I thought, I didn't want to talk ill of the ministers, but I'm afraid there were an awful lot of bottles buried in that flower bed over there at one point.
Certainly, Reverend Moffat was not teetotal either.
No, he liked it.
He was very sociable. refreshments concerned.
There's one other thing about the village hall. There was always a Christmas party for the children in the village. I think perhaps it still continues just now. I'm not quite sure about that. But they had a Santa would come, you know. But you had a party beforehand, and we were all encouraged to do something. So you played the piano, or you sang, or did a poem. You had to do. Well, you didn't have to do something, but you were encouraged to do something, and there were a lot of us performed at this Christmas party. And then there were games, you know, all the usual games, or the old-fashioned games in the village hall, weren't there? And then Santa came and we all got a present, and that was, we just looked forward to that so much. And I've actually got a picture, I'm sure it's around somewhere, you maybe have it, Betty, as well, of a group. There was a picture taken of all the village young people and children going down to, you know, Matt Davey, who lives up there. Well, he's a wee boy in it, he's about 3 in it. I was about 10, 11. And then there were some older ones like Ian McFadden and that, he was in it as well. The big, you know, we were all spaced out and everything. And we have got a big group photograph, and I tried to name everybody in that photograph, and I've got about 80% of them. I'll maybe give it to you.
Have you got a copy of this photo yet? Right.
Well, I've got it on my computer. I don't know if I've actually got a hard copy.
Oh, well, that's even better.
If we can get a copy of
I could send it to you.
Yes, that would be.
With a list of the names, but and I'm sure the names are fairly accurate, but there are 1 or 2 gaps, because there were always then there were a lot of the farms had in their cottages, they had farm workers who didn't always stay for a long time, you know what I mean, they might be there for a year or 2 or whatever, but they were a moving population, and these children went to school, so some of them are probably, and I can't remember their names.
Roughly what year would that, have you any idea what year that would be?
Right, give me a minute.
Give or take 5 years.
About 1960,
Alright, okay.
I would say.
1960s.
And the Santa Claus was no other than the Reverend Jean.
You got everywhere.
My father was the Santa for a few years when, at one stage, but that was after John Johnson.
Didn't we have homemade wine tasting in the village hall?
Yeah,
The wine club.
Yes.
Alan was talking.
Great.
Tell us a wee bit about the wine circle then.
Well, it stretched much further than Kirkmichael, and the local winemakers would have one day, and I think it was in May, and they put on an event in the hall, and the club produced nibbles like biscuits and cheese, and the whole event cost you £1 to go into it, and you could drink as much of this as you liked, or pour it away, depending on how good it was. But it was always a very good night, and it was always well attended.
It was.
So who made the wine then?
My father and my
Yeah,
uncle.
There you are.
But you didn't have to actually make wine to be in the club. It was a social club, and although there was wine sampling and all the rest of it, I mean, my mother went, she never ever touched stuff, you know. In fact, my father didn't like it either. He didn't make very much, but he would go along to it. He enjoyed the evening, but not the drinking. So you didn't have to actually be making the wine. You could still be in the club and taste it.
Yes.
This was homemade wine.
Oh yes.
Homemade.
Oh yes.
I had no idea how strong it was.
What kind of flavour, what kind of stuff, can you remember any of the varieties?
Rhubarb, elderflower.
Rhubarb,
Yeah.
elderflower.
Elderberry.
Gooseberry.
Gooseberry.
Sloe gin.
Oh, right.
My father
beer
used to
as well. Did beer.
Very good.
We just about made it out of anything.
Just back, I know.
Now, I was working abroad at the time, and I targeted getting back for it.
They used to hold meetings in like mini shant school and things like that, mini shant and roundabout as well. It wasn't just
How
here.
often
And
were the
outings.
meetings?
But your Uncle Alec was the chairman of it, wasn't
He started it.
he? Yeah, he started it, yeah.
What was his speciality? Which wine?
didn't really pay attention to it. I wasn't really interested. I just know my mum and dad would go out to the wine club meeting and things like that, but my mum didn't particularly, she didn't drink at all, and my dad didn't drink wine really either. So they just went along because it was
fun.
it was a meeting of village people, and the same as the other clubs that were on, you know, there were quite a few that she went to. There was a line dancing club, did you go to that?
Oh, all right.
And mum went to
Was
that.
this the McCosh
I can
Hall?
remember having to get a skirt with pockets in it. You had to have a skirt with pockets in it because you had to put your hands in your pockets and jig around and things like that. So she had a great time getting a skirt with the right pockets in it.
Did you do any of the amateur dramatics?
Yes.
Yeah, because Kate used to do the amateur
And you know something? We worked hard with the club, and we had 2 nights at Kirkmichael, a night at Straighton, a night at Norrimpo, and a night at McCosh Hall.
Wow.
Took the party round about, and the money we got was saved up, and we bought the most beautiful red velvet curtains.
Oh, that's
And
good.
gold lettering down the side was KDC. Well, those, when the dramatic club kind of petered out, some of the younger ones coming in when they be interested in it. And I was in at Maybole at a Burns night, and I was sitting in the seat, and these curtains appeared in front of me. KDC. So how on earth they got there, I have no idea.
Maybe they were donated to them because they were still putting on stage shows after Kirkmichael stopped.
Yeah.
Did you have a stage to do
Yes.
the thing with the curtains drawn
Yes,
in front
yes.
of it? Across the end of the hall? Or?
I don't remember the stage up at the
Kirkmichael
far end.
Stage, yeah.
There was always a stage up
Stage.
there. I think it's removed now. It is
Yeah.
removed now. But that was the stage where the bands were and
Yes.
Yeah.
that was and all the
Yes, it was
rest
a
of it.
temporary
was-
stage, you could move in and out, couldn't you?
Uh,
It was a temporary
Yes, there
stage.
was
Yeah.
the centre part of the stage and the 2 wings. And they stood in the wings waiting in your turn to go in. But there was also a door at that side
Yeah.
that you could go in and you could go.
And what sort of plays did you do?
It was 3 one-act plays. Now, what was the name of the Scottish? And I just don't remember at the minute.
No.
That I should have a thing in the house about them.
Ah.
I've got a
That would be
photograph of
lovely.
the dramatic club.
We've got a photograph, I think,
Mhm.
of the group, or one time the group was on.
Aye. But no, but it was great fun.
So I just want to bring up the McCosh Hall again. I'm just thinking of how it's changed because you were saying the stage. I have a photograph of the old fireplace which was in the McCosh Hall. And you know, downstairs. Downstairs, yeah. And there were, the rooms are still, well, they're used by the bowling club. What were those rooms? Those rooms, the people lived in there, isn't that right? You know, the caretaker.
Out with that.
Next door.
Next door, you went in
From the bowling green.
from the bowling green, you went in.
That was the door. It was very small. That was the caretaker lived in
No, the
there.
caretaker came in that
McClure?
bit.
McClure?
Aye,
Or Mrs. McClure?
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
No, not where the shop is. You
No,
know that.
no,
not in
the
hall.
bit where the
side
bowlers
bit.
are.
The side.
So those 2 rooms then were used for the caretaker.
Yeah.
But
She
the
lived there.
shop is, there was carpet walls in there.
The fireplace is still there actually behind
Still there behind, yeah.
behind that the
Shelving.
panels, the shelving. Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't there a toilet down there?
It was originally a toilet, and if you look at the outside, in front of the outside, you can see there's a big 4-inch pipe coming out of it. There
Right.
was a toilet, and I think probably a basin as well.
Not
Makes sense.
bad.
It was at the bottom of the
Was it?
stairs, I think. The toilets at the bottom of the stairs, weren't they? Betty?
Ah.
But if you look
Where
at
the toilets are just now.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Still there.
Yeah.
But there was also, where the ladies is now, there was also a fireplace there at one stage, there's that as an angled wall.
Yeah.
And when the council was playing around with it recently, they took the plaster off and you could see they were making the fireplace there.
Well, maybe that's where the bathroom was for the caretaker.
I don't know. I mean, there certainly has been a bathroom in the front of the shop now. What's now the shop? Because you can look at the outside and see the pipes.
Do you have any records of when the school was in the hall? Because that's important.
Not a record, but there was the
There was some information.
there was that enabled the lift and so on.
Yeah.
That
Well, that was
facilitated that.
that was the payback at the end.
Yes.
Because we there was a lot of village. Do you remember the village consultation about whether we minded
Yeah.
that the school was in there?
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of option. And then at the end, fortunately, there was a change of personnel in the council, and we were saying the deal was he would put in a lift. And this new guy came in and he said, well, of course you have to have a lift. And it happened. And I was thinking, it's
It's slightly more complex than that. We actually did a survey of the village.
Oh, that's right.
The village is quite small, it's 300 people, 400 people. 60 people required a lift.
Suddenly,
Suddenly, very suddenly.
which just so happened to be the number of people who happened to be at the meeting.
Something like that.
And as
yes.
they left, everybody signed. Do you remember everybody signed a petition
Yeah.
saying, well, we can't possibly get up the stairs. And on the back of that, they
I
put the
can't.
lift in. No, I think you could in that time.
Well, that was a big bonus.
Yeah.
So there aren't any other changes really. I'm trying to think, obviously, in the course of the last. When Caroline, you can tell us a wee bit about the movement of the
Oh, well,
shop.
when we moved across from the old shop
Mhm.
and we moved into the hall, because we had a lease, not a very long lease, we could then apply for funding to do all the improvements that we did. The council did a few, didn't they, when we
We
moved
did
in?
quite a lot to help us, yeah.
They did. They
They
replaced the
rewired
floors
it.
downstairs and they did bits of
Yeah.
rewiring and things like that. Things like the curtains and repairing all the floors and the chairs and the tables and all the bits of equipment that we have, we've all acquired through grant funding ever since. So that's been very helpful.
But we couldn't do much to the building because we didn't have a long lease.
No,
We couldn't get grants for that.
no.
So just to put everyone in the picture, before that the shop was in Jocks, so Jocks, Alison, what can you tell us about Jocks?
It was great.
It was great. I know.
They were doing Jocks Up very much at the same time that we were doing the cottage up. So I remember coming down to the village and peering through the window and having a look to see what's going on. And after the Jocks restaurant opened, it was great. And I met Celia and Rab and got a job there, working in between after Tom, our first child, was born. I worked part time, and it was just a really nice restaurant, busy. Did lunches, dinners. Sunday lunch was very popular, and there was one open down at Turnberry where we had people banging on the door trying to get in because they were just desperate for somewhere to eat, because there wasn't an awful lot of nice places then.
And they had the sand pit, that was the
And there was a sand pit at the
where
back.
the
where
Waynes could
the
go.
children, we used to go with the children, and they just used to run around, and it was a lovely garden for them to play in. It was a great, it was good.
Yeah, that was a great novel, and it was beautifully done, so tastefully done. Jocks, well, Alan, you'll know about Jocks, the building, and tell us
Well,
a bit
it was a
about
workshop prior to being a restaurant, where Jock Blaine, Bessie probably knows more about Jock than I do, but he was a local handyman. He knew every drain and every door and every house in the village, and that's where he kept his equipment. And it was full of workman's equipment and a workbench.
I think it might have been the gardening, the roads department building. Jock just used it to store his
right.
stuff. He actually only lived in the wee annex at the side of Rosemary Riddle's house.
Yes.
But he didn't live in the house, he lived in just the wee end bit, you know.
Well, he always
After his
did
mother
live
and
there.
father died, he
Just in the
just
lean-to.
lived in the wee lean-to at the side.
Yeah.
And he spent a lot of time up at Jock's. But in fact, I think he was a plumber and a builder, he did just about anything. But I think that was a roads department rental place,
That
and
makes sense, yeah.
it was David Murray who actually was in charge of the roads. He was a roadman in the village. He lived up in the brick houses, top end of the brick house. He was near. You remember David Murray? And David Murray was a roadman, and he kept the village clean, and it always is, always was, you know. But he would brush the pavements and gutters and cut the hedges, because there were hedges that don't exist anymore, and clear the drains and things like that. He just looked after the village, and he had his equipment in that place, and Jock was his pal. And Jock had stuff that he didn't, he kept it in there, so he had his plumbing stuff, etc. in there.
It was a sweet
Jimmy-
too.
He
Jimmy
stored it,
Sweet.
and he stored it all in there,
Sweet.
and David and him, and to be quite honest, David Murray was really the one I can remember standing at the door when you'd gotten down from the bus. You know, the bus came down to the bottom of the street, and it was always David Murray who'd be standing there watching, you know, walking up and down. There were more than there are nowadays, going up and down the street. And Jock spent a lot of time there, but he was he shared it, I think. But
And
I
what
don't
was
think he
Jock-
didn't own it.
What was Jock's famous Sunday job, of course? That's a good story.
He carried the Bible up,
Down the aisle,
down the aisle,
with white gloves
and up
on,
into the,
white gloves.
up into the pulpit, and made sure that everything was all right.
He was all completely dressed in black, and a black hat and a black face, because he didn't seem to ever get the soot out of his skin. It was kind of ingrained in Jock. And he didn't speak. I don't ever remember them. I mean, I'm sure he did to older people, but
Okay.
he didn't speak to me or
Was he a
anybody
bit
else.
scary?
I was petrified
Yeah.
of him. Oh yes, I was really scared of him.
Yeah.
But in his white gloves, absolutely white gloves, didn't he, to carry the Bible? And he was, apart from that, he was totally black, as I said, in his skin. But I was frightened of him. He wasn't a friendly kind of man, but he didn't do any harm either. I mean, there was nothing.
No, he wouldn't have,
He was a gentleman.
he wouldn't have said booty or
No, he was a gentleman, but he was very gruff looking.
Well, when my wife moved into Kirkmichael, she was out walking the dog, and she was walking past the Euro Road end here, and she came back and she said, "Who was the man standing at the end of the Manse Drive?" And she described him, and I said, "Well, that was Jock." But he'd already been dead for about 10 years by then, because when she looked round, he wasn't there. We walked past him, and she looked round, turned round, and he was gone.
No. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look out
Are
for
there any
it.
other stories of
Standing at
this
the corner just down there.
this Jock's ghost? No, is anybody else?
Yeah.
No? No.
What we don't know is the above the front door, all these heads. I don't know, did you film them? Yeah, and they're, whether they came off the old building before they built it, but they're quite sinister. And we have no idea, do we, where they came from?
They might also have come from the previous church,
Previous church?
because the
Yeah.
current church was built in 1790 odd, which was
Yeah.
built 40 years later.
Yeah. But
So
this
they either
isn't
came
a-
from
yeah.
the original Manse that was here,
Yeah.
or possibly from the
Yeah.
church.
But this isn't a spooky house.
No,
At all.
no ghosty stories.
There
Yeah.
were some ghosty stories about when the grave robbers were on the go. They used to up where my other granny had the house where Tony Watterson lives.
Yes.
Where right from the church down to the what's the name again? The new Macomb, something like that. They're in that end bit, you know, the half at the bottom half towards the bridge. But before it was a garage, it was a house, and I remember it as a house. And there was a passageway between that house and the rest of the terrace. There was a way down to the back, and it was eventually blocked off. And my granny didn't have that at that time. It was Lizzie Eccles that had that place related to the. Do you know that?
You're saying Lizzie Eccles.
I don't know anything about Lizzie Eccles.
But you think when you go back to Eccles, we're Eccles.
Well, no, but I don't know anything about her. It's just that she lived in that house, and I think they're all related. I think she was related to the Eccles, who were still up, including Betty. But Lizzie lived in the one right next to the church, and there was a passageway between it and the rest of the terrace there. And apparently the grave robbers used to go down that and through the back and get over the fence, the wall, and get some of the bodies and back up that way and off without being seen. But and apparently there was a ghost of a wee girl or some kind of thing like that. But I think it was just the whole idea of the thing. I don't think it's ever been verified in any way. You know?
You find records of grave robbing in,
Yes, we have.
in the parish records.
There's the funeral book of 1928.
Well, that was the route.
And underneath it was a James Hogg, who was aged, and underneath that it says in somebody else's handwriting, first body exhumed and sold.
Really?
It's
So,
so
wow.
yeah.
So Kirkmichael has grave robbers.
Was there not supposed to be a ghost up at Kirkmichael House as well?
There was one at Cloncaird. I'm not sure about
But these are
Kirkmichael House, but
one of those
Cloncaird.
things that
Green,
I think that was all to just scare us.
with Green Jean at Cloncaird. Cloncaird.
Where's Green Jean then?
Well, when Mike Hamley had Kirkmichael House, he reckoned there was a ghost in one of the rooms. He was in it once and never went back in it. So he
There was a
reckoned-
rumour about
Yeah.
the house, but it was empty so long. I'm not surprised that there was some kind of eerie feelings about it. You know.
The people that have it now have beautifully restored it. It's absolutely fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautifully done, yeah.
It always was a beautiful house.
But it's the
Like,
same-
it had potential.
Yeah,
We used to have fetes up there once a year, and the village would turn out, and you sat in the green at the front and had your picnic, didn't you? And with stalls inside and.
I
coffees
remember
and
going to
things
that
like
fete the first time we came. I don't even think we'd moved in, and we took all the children and we went up to the fete, and they had all their money to spend, and they kept going on the bottle stall, you know, on the tombola. They kept winning all the big bottles, and eventually I said, "You've got to stop, because if you win all the big bottles, we're going to have to leave the village. We won't be able to come back." I confiscated their money.
And Grandpa used to take you the pony rides and jock up at the fete.
Did he? He had a pony and trap at one point. I've got a picture of me in the trap,
There was a black and
the
white
back
one.
of it, down Burnside Road. My grandpa and a couple of wee boys from the village. Charles Manley, do you remember him?
He stayed down
Charles
Burnside.
Manley and David McGowan and me. They were 3 years older than me, and I was. We all lived down Burnside Road, and I was just this wee girl looking for somebody to play with, and there was a boy on either side of me, bigger than me and older than me, and I used to want to play with them, but they didn't want to play with me, so they used to run away, and my mum says it was really sad to see, because they would just set off, and I'd be running after them saying, "Wait for me, wait for me."
But we were the
But never
very
did.
opposite, because there was
You're
myself and Gordon Hodgson. You remember Gordon Hodgson?
No, I don't.
Gordon Hodgson and Andrew Proudfoot. And
Oh,
where
I
you
remember
got
him.
one of us, you got the three of us.
Well, they played with you though.
Oh,
Oh,
I
you
but
were
of course
lucky.
I wasn't a girly girl, I was a tomboy, so I fitted in.
Was Andrew Proudfoot not the policeman? That's right.
Andrew and Tom,
Mhm.
we were two boys.
So you had a village police in those days.
Oh, yes.
You had
Did they live in the police house?
Bob Templeton lived in that when I first came.
Yeah, but the Proudfoots were there before that,
Yeah.
in that house, yes.
Is that, now where is that? Is that beside the hall?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, beside the hall.
The doctor that lives in it now.
The bit at the side was built as the office,
Ah.
you know, the bit beside the
Oh,
drive.
see, but the police
That there,
station.
you went in and there was, I don't know if there still is, but there was a separate door in to that, and that was the office. The Proudfoots were there, and then the Templetons.
This is your father's house. was it?
Yes, there was a cell.
I think that
Oh, yes, so it is,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Yes, as you're right, there was a door on the flank wall of it, and that gave into a cell. So there was a.
Isabel Templeton, the policeman's daughter, still lives up at it's not Dubwinnon. What's it called? Something like Dubwinnon. Dubwinnon.
Sorry, folks, can I stop you a minute? Patrick, could you pull yourself forward? You're getting lost in the background. Sorry.
Up at Dubwinnon on the way to Partner.
Right.
You know where the trunk farm and things used to be, and then up at the top of the hill? Well, Isabel from the house married the farmer's son from there.
Right.
He died, I think, a couple of years ago, and I think she's still up there. But there were rumours of her maybe moving back into the village. But that's the daughter who lived in that
Right,
house.
yeah, yeah.
So you've seen a few changes, even the people who haven't been here that long. You'll see quite a few changes with new housing built and shops disappearing and things like that. I mean, even again, Alison, in your relatively short time, the shops have disappeared and left just with the one shop and the one pub. And even at one time, we didn't have a pub, so.
Well, we had a very good butcher's shop at one time,
Yes.
just across the street from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And it was well attended on New Year's Eve. I think everybody in the village finished about it, didn't they, Betty? Brilliant. And you staggered out.
There was many years ago. There was a butcher shop there for many years,
Aye.
going way back, and with 3 grocer shops
That's right.
and 2 pubs and a joiner's
And the blacksmith.
and a blacksmith. That's right,
And a garage.
and a garage,
Petrol. You could get petrol.
petrol station.
And it was interesting, Marnie's mum ran the shop,
Uh-huh.
Marnie Watson. And she was saying when her mum died and the shop closed,
Uh-huh.
she went through the books and the amount of money that Marnie's mum had lent to people in the village,
Really?
just to help them buy,
Yeah.
It was never collected, it was just there, so there was quite a debt. And that was part, she was
Was it
a
Ned
philanthropic.
Carey? Ned? Ned Carey, Mrs. Maguire, I think she was Ned Carey. Her sister's still in the village,
Right,
up at the top village. And Irene was the daughter.
that's
She
right.
was, but your age was she?
Aye.
Irene was,
Maybe a couple of years
Between
younger
us.
than me. I used to go to Glasgow with Irene to the hospital.
Irene didn't keep very well.
Right.
That's Marnie's mum.
Yeah, no, I remember.
She was ill. She struggled on for many years and ran the shop.
Yeah.
She smoked wonderfully, didn't she?
Yes,
She always filled with
Go through the back and
Yes,
Smoked.
and wonderful penny sweets
penny
for the children.
where the children used to get all the penny sweets.
Penny sweets. I remember that shop so well, and it closed soon after we arrived.
But
because
her
she
father
died suddenly. didn't
also ran a grocery van.
she?
Do you remember that, Betty? And he would travel very, very slow.
And it don't we talk to everybody?
Yeah. I mean, when you got behind him in the van, behind his van, you were a long time getting where you wanted to go. But he was quite good. He would flash his indicator lights for you to go past when it was clear. Yeah, it was quite
It
good.
was quite a character.
Tommy, did you say
You've got a
Tommy?
photograph of the van outside of the shop.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we've got a photograph.
This is Jim Maguire's mother and father we're talking about.
Yes,
Jim
Jimmy,
Maguire of the
Jimmy.
top village.
Uh-huh.
Irene was his sister,
Yeah.
the one who ran the shop.
Yes.
He was
And
from
he was a terrible boy. And you know,
Jimmy?
his mum wasn't fit to run after him. She really wasn't.
When you
He
say
was a
know,
nice
you
boy, he was just lively.
We heard
You know,
some of
the,
the stories.
the box of apples.
Uh-huh.
Well, remember, Ferguson was, she was working down at the shop at the time, and somebody came in for apples. I don't know how many she had to go through to get one because he would have lifted one out, took a bite out, and get upside down.
That's how you were very young then, I doubt. We used to go down to Maidens during holidays and that. My dad had a van and he used to collect some of the children. I mean, we just went with anybody, you know what I mean? Jim Maguire was one of them that used to go down to Maidens with us because his mum and dad were always working in the shop, you know, and they all piled into the back of the van and we went down to Maidens.
In the van. I like the way you call it the top village.
Yes,
I've never heard that.
Yes, the top village.
Well, I was saying to Alan, I used to think that was the rest of the world, the top village, because the house I'm in, my grandpa, it's a big long garden at the back, as they all are, you know. And it was a long way to go when this is before I started school, so I was 3 or 4 year old, and I would go. It was a long way to the bottom of the garden for me, and I couldn't see over the hedge, but you could see through the hedge. And I was always interested in where things were and what was happening and who was around and all the rest of it. And I was fascinated with the fact that you could see houses through the hedge up the top village. I always call it the top village. The brick, you know, I never call that. What do you call it? The new village? Well, anyway, the bricks and the wooden houses and the tin houses were all up there. And I knew that there was a world out there somewhere, and I thought that must be it. Because I'd never been, we didn't go up there. My relatives were all on Patna Road, and I lived here on Patna Road
You
as
didn't
well.
tend
And
to
it was
go very far,
small.
did you?
No, you never know.
No. So I thought that was the rest of the world. I was fascinated because I hadn't started school or anything like that then. That was
Where were the tin houses?
we're facing the school, you know, facing the field and the school, and the new houses up
The
there.
old school.
The old school, Meadowbank.
Yeah.
Got it, changed it. That was our school.
Yeah.
That was our school. The houses on the road facing
Yes.
that were all, they were double-storey prefabs, flat roofs,
Flat roofs.
tin
Painted with
houses.
red
They
lead.
were called the tin houses, weren't they?
Yeah.
And semi-detached houses. They
Like
were
used to be
something
in
else.
Daly. Do you remember Daly had flat roof council housing?
In Daly.
Daly, yes.
They
They've
made
Through,
it,
yeah.
Same kind of
they
thing, is
made
it?
it
I-
great
no, I think they were
difference
brick.
to
Just the brick.
They
Well,
didn't-
these
they
ones
didn't
were these ones
fixtures
were
in.
built after the war. They were built they were built before any of the rest, weren't they?
Oh, aye.
I think they were those, and then the brick. The wooden ones came about 1954-55.
Right.
But
like
I think
prefabs,
sorry,
like prefabs.
they were upstairs, downstairs prefabs, semi-detached. They're not prefab bungalows, and there were about 4 of them. And Hugh McConnell lived in one of them.
Yes.
If you know him,
Yes.
he's still in
Yeah, man.
the village.
What about the houses up at the main Ball Road as you're leaving the village? Those 4 in a
They were
block?
built before those ones up there.
Oh, yes.
They were built
Oh,
in
yes.
1936.
Oh, 19, all right.
The Maple Road ones,
Yes, all right.
which used to be direct terrace.
No, direct terrace is up at Kirkport.
Aye, but that used to be direct terrace, which is now the Maple Road.
Oh,
Oh, down
That used to be called direct terrace.
well, up at Kirkport, that's direct terrace because my granny lived in
Aye, because
these
that's why
houses there.
they changed the to Maple Road there.
Oh, right, because there was a direct terrace up.
Because there were
It was either side. There was a
the
direct terrace at either side.
terrace was there long before
Right.
direct terrace up here.
No,
at the
very
Manse.
interesting. Interesting.
That was
So
direct
you don't-
That
terrace.
might be on a map somewhere. Maybe we need to check that.
You don't remember Direct House, do you?
Sorry?
No.
Direct House.
Direct house. No, my mother used to carry milk to direct house.
Where was that?
When we were
It was the home farm for the big house, and then it got smarter and smarter and smarter, and eventually became Direct House. And Ollie Anderson's parents looked at buying it in the 1920s or 1930s. We didn't. There's nothing left of it at all.
Is it
Well,
the
the-
gates
the
that
footing
Daisy
is
walks
still
on?
there.
Yeah, the gate.
The posh
Yeah,
gates that
yes,
Daisy
yes,
walks
yes.
on.
Yeah.
And then there's the remains of the bridge, the struts for the bridge you can
Yeah.
see. And you can see the ruin, can't you? In the
It's,
wood.
so it's just
Just the
Getting
footprints
over
above the
And that's where
sewage tank.
the
were.
nice McNab has got planning consent for 3 new
Yeah.
houses there.
Yeah.
Where it used to
We
be.
have a
Was that the
photograph of
Dowager
Direct
House?
It's called Dowager House, yeah.
Is
It's
it
also-
right? I know
Yeah.
the Dowager House, but
But
I didn't know
It was
the
called
other
Direct
name.
House, and if you
Right.
look at the ordnance survey plans that are in the hall,
You can see it.
you can see how it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's eventually called Direct House, and that's when it had its lodge
Right.
and its
Did it
gates.
burn down?
Just found that, I think.
Well done.
Yeah, according to Ollie, his parents went to look at it, and it was okay. It was viable and livable.
Yeah.
Quite big, wasn't it, Patrick?
Yeah, it was reasonable size. It was a-
Did they have stables there as well? I mean, I know
It was
they had
a-
stables down at
the stables.
the stables.
I think it was the farm. If you look at it through the
Right.
sort of, as it went through from 1850, which is the first ordnance survey, through to about 1909, I think, which is it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's a U shape, so it was obviously a farmhouse with a couple of wings, which got more and more, or better and better, until it eventually became its own house in its own right and got its
Right.
own lodge and its drive and everything else.
Okay, it was quite a
Yeah.
big area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the McNabs bought Kirkmichael House, they restored a window, which about like that one. And then they built scaffolding up because it carried a lot of weight above it. And the money they'll make from the 3 houses that are being built will only just cover that cost.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Interesting enough, the same architect, William Byrne, who designed this, also designed McNabb's house
Yeah.
and also Blairhois, and also Castles,
All right.
the new bit of Castles.
Yes, yeah.
I'm interested just to, we obviously love living in the village and having associations with you. Have you anything particular about the best things about living in the village, or good memories, anything particular that jumps out at you that you want to share with us?
With people.
Yeah, that's about
Just that everybody was so friendly and everybody knew everybody. And you knew if you did something wrong, your mother wouldn't be long in hearing about it.
I think as a child, I remember I lived in here till I was 5, and then we moved up to Windy Hill, and we used to, well, once I got a bit older, later stages of primary, come down here to play in the playing fields with our bikes. We were up and down that road all the time with our bikes. But of course I had relatives in the village, so I could always go into somebody. There was always somebody you could go into, but even your friends, the ones you were at school with, you were in and out of their houses as well. And you'd get a drink of water and a biscuit and that kind of thing, just about anywhere. Or the toilet, you know what I mean? It was just available to
It was great when all our children were little, because they all just messed around between houses. And if you'd count however many children were there. Oh, are you staying for tea? Well, let your mother know, but that's fine. And you just put more on. And it was a wonderful community and there was always someone you could call on if you were stuck and you needed someone to look after a child. And
yes. You get looked after. You get looked after.
Yeah.
People always noticed you and knew
Yeah.
where you were.
Yeah.
But I think another thing is the freedom that the children
They
have
did,
in this
they had a
village.
lot of freedom.
That I find still quite amazing, because we had a lot of freedom. We just left the house and you only went back for meals, and you were out and about. You were either up at the creamery, we used to go up to the creamery to the swimming. I never went in. I was it was too cold and it was too dangerous. I couldn't swim anyway. But there was a whole crowd of us would go up there, up to right at the creamery. This is at the weekends when it wasn't getting used, and there was a deep park there. The boys, they used to jump off a wall.
So did I.
Oh, I'd love to have met you better.
I just watched. And they jumped off the wall into this. It was quite something.
And do you remember the dog that we had, the golden Labrador? Eula was her name. And she used to go with us. And we jumped in, she jumped in, and invariably I had her in your bag.
Was this into the river?
It was a pool in the river.
Before that, my father talks about there's a deep park just at the side of the cemetery at the church.
We used to duke in there as well.
He talks about swimming in there just up from the bridge, up
Right,
at the
yeah,
corner.
yeah.
There's a deep park up there, just at the cemetery just beside you, and we used to swim in there as well.
Because we used to be able to go up the side where
The back of the houses. There was a path. There was a path
up there.
right up.
And we always went up to the kirk tunnels, we talked to
Right.
and we used to swim in there.
Well, I remember the flood. It was about 1978. Something like that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we got later. 79, 8,
It flooded all the houses on Dyrock Road, right up to what was the old post office. And the houses at the far end where you used to live as a child. I went in to rescue 2 people out of it.
This is Burnside Road you're talking
Burnside
about.
Road, Burnside Road. And I put waders on because I didn't think it'd be very deep. Eventually it went right up to my waist, and it was a torrent. I mean, it was really violent. And there's a picket gate around what was the wooden house there. And you couldn't see it because I had to try and find where the gate was to get through. And I took the woman's name. She was quite a large lady. And I gave her a piggyback out, and I thought, if I lose my footing here, we'll finish up in Girvan, both of us. Then I went back to get Tom out, and he wouldn't come. He was sat on top of the kitchen table, which was still covered in water. and it shook the house so violently, it shook the television area off. Yeah.
That's quite high because there were 2 or 3
Yeah.
steps up
Oh yeah,
to the
it
road.
was high.
You know, I mean,
And when the Robertsons had the McClure, Kathy kept it open for the survivors to go into. She put soup and stuff on, and it was open all night. So I went in
Is
there.
there a story about a cow, Alan? Do you know that story about the cow? That was, I think it would belong to Rowan.
I didn't hear about that one.
I remember the cows being stuck in the field as you come down the hill, and that field was all flooded, and
Yeah.
the cows were stuck on little islands in the
Oh,
field.
this was before that. I mean,
Yeah,
flooding
this was
again, but
later,
not as
another
bad as,
flood.
not
Yeah.
as bad as
They
that
used to
one.
have cows in there, but I think it's just sheep they put in it now. They're putting anything, but there used to be cows in that field quite a lot.
Because in the flood
It was
I'm
very
referring
low.
to, there wasn't any houses where the tomato houses used to be. It was
Uh-huh.
just,
That's why the playing field and that field don't have houses on them because
Yeah.
they were given to the village because you could build on them. They're nice flat areas, but they're very low and
Flooders.
flood.
yeah.
The playing field used to, I can remember it flooding. Can you remember it flooding? Because there are bends in the river, the burn,
Yes.
just there, and one of them, the bend, if they can't take, the water can't take the bend, it comes right into the
Straight on,
cottages that you
yeah,
were talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
on Burnside Road. But if it manages to negotiate that, there's another bend that just at the edge of the playing field, and it just, if it builds up, it just goes right into the playing
When I
field.
looked at it in the last 20 years, I remember that was a sheet of water and it was going straight across the road into the
Just-
lower field.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But it wasn't, it was perhaps for 12 hours, if that.
Uh-huh.
I remember stepping stones across the
Yes,
Yes.
stepping
Because you
stones
could
was
walk down
Burnside,
Burnside Road.
Yes, that's
You
right.
used to take the children and then
That's
you'd walk
right,
across and you could walk all the way round.
I used to
Yeah.
cross
We used to-
that way to go to school.
We used to play down there,
Uh-huh.
and when you're down, you're seeing the curve that comes round. So we decided we'd make a swimming pool. So we were getting all the stones up to dam the water.
Oh dear. So you flooded the playing field?
No, but
There was one time when it flooded when we were having a duck race,
Yeah.
and they must have let water out from Loch Spalander because this great
Yes,
big
it was an
bush
accident.
came down.
It was an accident.
And that was
wasn't it?
all the ducks went fleeing down the river and ended
That
out
has
in
been
the
lost
sea.
forever.
It was.
Some of them, quite a lot of them came
It
back.
wasn't
Really?
rain. It was actually an
Release.
error. An error.
It was an error that they'd let
I
all of
remember
water
that,
out
yes.
of Loch Spalander.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
It was very
clearly
funny.
know what a duck race is, but the people who come 50 years from now and watch
Well,
your
it was
video,
when the first time we had the duck race in the village, the reporters came to the village to see because they thought we were racing ducks. But these were the yellow plastic ducks for your bath.
and you raced them from where to where.
It was along the side of the playing field, just the top edge of the playing field as the river was going down. And I can't remember how we lined them up. They just threw them in. I think they just
They
had
were
a
numbers,
the
weren't
barrier across.
Yeah.
they?
And they just let them go. And you all had a
You wrote a
number.
number.
You had a number, and they went down
From
so
the
far down
bridge.
the river.
The
the bridge,
This is part of
Just
the,
out at the bridge.
sorry, it was a gala thing.
A gala. It was a gala
The
thing.
Moyers
Yes.
that we spoke about.
Oh yes.
There was a family, Sheila and Charlie.
Charlie.
You can,
Yeah,
tell us about it.
they did so much in the village. They instigated so many things and carried things on. And yeah, the galas were really good in those days.
For a week.
Not too bad.
Well, I remember
Quite
the
good.
first gala we went to here, and the Mabel Pipe Band appeared.
Yeah.
And this is me up from London, really didn't know what was going on. And they played beautifully, and then there was the tug of war, and these huge Mabel Pipe boys all joined in, and of course they pulled the ropes, and then they all fell over, and all their kilts flew up in the air, and none of them, of course, were wearing anything underneath. And I'm going, well, this is exciting.
There was, the fancy dress, the gala, there were so many things. There was a fun run, there was a treasure hunt. You remember all these things.
Yeah.
This was the gala before, that was in the 1980s.
My children would never dress up. Never ever.
Yes, well,
The only other gala type things were the Queen's coronation. There was a huge event for that. It was, I mean, I think the whole village was out for it. I was just 3, so now you can work it out. But it was a big event, wasn't it? And it's in the film that
Yes, I've seen
Yeah,
it.
I've
you
seen
film,
it.
and it's quite interesting to see all the men in their suits and collars and ties. This is them having a day off, and the ladies, they all had coats on and hats on. But I don't think it was June, but I don't know if it was that warm. But there was that one then in 1997. No, when was her? And 79. I've got it round the wrong way. Her Jubilee, Silver Jubilee. 1997. Our Silver Jubilee. We had another one, and it was a big event as well.
Picnic.
And it was a big one. But and then the King's coronation was actually not very big at all, and very few people were there. And that's 3 I had been at, 3 kind of coronation things, you know, and that was a very disappointing one, that people didn't embrace it,
There was a
because
bit.
it was always a big village event for something important like that. Well, maybe they don't think it's important.
You're talking about,
I think the Queen was
you saw the,
very
you have seen the
popular.
film. What film was that?
The coronation film that we used to watch in the village, and I saved it from a bin
Well, I'll
and
tell
got
you,
it
Hubert,
patched up a bit.
Hubert stood in the top of the toilets at the time there, maybe this is a different one, and he filmed it, and you could see the men and they were doing the races,
Oh, the
and the races, and there's even one of the ministers, Very G. Johnson. We were dancing, we were dancing, and he was like playing his stick like this.
That's in the film.
Yeah.
This film.
Well,
Colin
that
has got
Amazing
it.
film.
I think
You
it's
got
on
it,
YouTube. You'll get it on YouTube. I think these are.
Well, that film disappeared, and Hubert never got it back, and he never was happy about it.
I know where it went. It went to it was the Langs that got it. It took it, Mr. Lang. You remember, we live opposite
Aye.
us.
Yeah,
He was a,
they looked after dogs.
what do you call the,
Manicured dogs. didn't
no,
they?
the elder. He was an elder in
Oh,
the
yeah.
church, and he was in charge of it. And after he died, I was talking to his wife, and it was this, you know, and I actually remembered the film. I think it was because the Silver Jubilee was coming up, and I remembered this film. I thought, where on earth is that film, you know? And I knew that Mr. Lang had kept it, because he used to. It used to go to the hall every year. We used to, for a few years, we saw it in the hall. It was in the hall. I can remember as a child watching it.
Is it the same one you've got then?
There's a YouTube version. Ours isn't very good, but there was a guy
It was
in
all
the village
you just seen it. Oh, it's a miracle as anything.
who has fixed it or did something with it, and I think it's on YouTube.
And I know we-
Right, it was in a bad way, and she said, I said to her, what about this film? She says, she was clearing out the house, and she had it. She says, I've got it. It's getting thrown out because it's all in bits, and it was a big black box about this size, and the reel was inside it, and it was in bits. I mean, it was a bit of film.
Yeah.
It was torn. It was all sorts of things, and I said, you can't throw that out. Give it to me and I'll get something done with it. So I took it and I sent it to Kodak with a letter asking them if they could save it and what they could do with it. And they made it into the film that you say is not very good, but as I said, it's really,
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's
the
wonderful.
condition of it,
Quite
good. It's just it's good for its era, you know.
well, the state it was in.
And
It wasn't
I think it's
looked
on
after.
YouTube. I think it's
The
totally
sheep.
now on YouTube.
That couldn't have been the one that,
Well, it sounds like it because Mr. Johnson's standing there doing that. He didn't have it up and he was just
he
pretending.
was just pretending that
That's
he
right.
was stick and was
That's
doing this and
it.
all
Air
dancing
violin,
beside
as
it.
opposed to air guitar, yes.
That's
I
right.
couldn't have been the one that Hubert took then, because I
took
would
one
have
at
been
the
married.
Silver Jubilee in
The
'77,
one
and I
that
tagged it
you got
on to the end of the coronation one, and Caroline got it also. I just waved my hands, but I don't know what's happening.
No, I was married when Hubert obviously took the one that I'm talking about, and I remember Uncle Tom.
Maybe he did that every time he was filmed. That was
Uncle Tom McCrae's coming across the bridge, and he's got the Scottish flag he's carrying in front of the pipe band. Right
Oh,
up
that must be a
the-
different film altogether.
That was the
then.
one you were to.
All right, have you still got it?
No, that's the one I'm saying disappeared.
Oh, did you give it to Mr. Lang?
No, never gave it to Mr. Mann. But I forget who got it, but it never came back.
That's a shame.
Well, we've almost run out of time. Is there anything that would anyone like to?
Here's how that's
No, we've done very well. So I would like to thank you very much, basically, for sharing your stories. If there's anything else that we haven't had a chance, maybe we'll get a chance again. Or if you have any photographs like you have there, Betty, of the wedding, or anything else that can be incorporated into our stories, then you get them back. We'll get them digitized, and we'll be able to.
Can I just email you the photograph about the village party, the Christmas party?
Yeah, if we can do that.
It's the only one I've got, and it's the only one my mum has, so I don't know whether that was a rare occasion for everybody to get photographed together.
Yes.
Photographs weren't actually taken as
No,
often as
no.
they are now, but this was the whole village,
Yes.
all the children in the village.
Yeah, of course.
So I'll email that to you if you like.
And hopefully we'll get all our stuff available so that things like this can be shared. Eventually.
I thought I might have given you already, actually. I haven't given you already, have I?
I can't
I'm
remember.
not aware
I've
of
got that many, honestly, Kay, that
No, right, okay.
Anyway, thank you very much again. You've been fantastic as always. And say any information, photographs, anything at all, we're trying to gather it all up and digitize it and
Well,
keep
Noreen,
it.
I don't want to hold anybody back or anything like that, but there is one story that I
Sure.
haven't heard anybody
All right.
talk about,
All right.
and I think it's quite an important one. It was in 1965, March 1965, when the school bus didn't get home from school, and we all got stranded at Cross Hill.
Oh,
It was March 1965, and that was in the day when you left school at 15, but I stayed on at school, and I was probably the only one in the village that did actually, and I was the oldest in the bus for Kirkmichael, but we went to school at Carrick Academy, and at about 10 o'clock, we weren't there that long, the head teacher came on the tannoy, which we had then, and said that he called the school buses, and that all of us who went on school buses back home were to get back, immediately gather your stuff up and get ready to go home in the buses. It was snowing, and it was big flakes, and very dry flakes on dry ground, because it was March. And it hadn't been raining or anything. You wouldn't be at school then, but do you remember it? Because it was unusual, and it was live. We were at school thinking, my goodness, and the snow was starting to collect and all the rest of it. Buses came, we all piled into the bus, and the bus, it's a different route now, but it went from Maybole to Cross Hill to Kirkmichael to Straighton, and then back the way. So it was at Cross Hill, Kirkmichael and Straighton pupils. We all get into the bus, dropped off the Cross Hill pupils, that was fine, and started coming the wee road, the back road from Cross Hill to Kirkmichael. That's the way the bus came. And we were on that long stretch just outside of past the bowling green, and the bus got stuck. It couldn't move any further. So the bus driver said we all had to get out and walk back into the village. Well, it was still snowing, and I'm not kidding, I remember the snow, it was well above our ankles. I mean, it was up to about halfway up our thigh and shin, whatever it is. And we all walked back and into the police house, because they had a policeman in a police house there as well, on the right hand side, White House. And this was Straighton and Kirkmichael children, and we were all in the kitchen of this woman's house, soaking wet, and the steam was rising up. You can remember the smell, all these bodies. We were literally standing room only, because we were all squeezed in there, till they decided what to do with us. Well, there was a coal lorry. I don't know where it was going. It was going to Straighton, But it was going the other road to Straighton, you know, from Cross Hill, not via Kirkmichael, going the other road to Straighton. So all the Straighton children piled into the back of this coal lorry. It had a canopy thing as well, but I mean, it would be filthy. And they all would, they were just, you know, it was just a bad situation. They all went into the coal lorry and off they went to home. This lorry was going to make it where it reckoned it was going to get there, and they did get home. So we were left with the Kirkmichael children. Now, I'm not actually sure how many there were of us, but there would be no more than 15, maybe less than that, maybe about a dozen of us. And we were all in the schoolhouse, and the word went out, we were going to have to stay overnight because the roads were blocked. So there were some stayed in the police house. At that point, the Heed Inn was a hotel, which is it's now a house, but it was been a restaurant and also something. Where the restaurant used to be, it was a hotel. Some very lucky ones got sent to the hotel, and they had proper rooms and beds and everything. And my maths teacher, who was Mr. Benny, I shouldn't say, do you remember Mr. Benny? An awful nice man. Well, he took 3 of us, and I was in his class at school, I think, you know, or I had been anyway. And we went and stayed with him. Well, I've never had such a cold, uncomfortable night in the whole of my life. My sister and my cousin had a wee thin mattress on the floor, and I could tell you it was a drafty place. And Nellie Ford, do you remember the Fords? Well, Nellie Ford and I shared this kind of, I think it was a mattress, but it was a lumpy thing. And we had just a wee cover, we had kept our clothes on, of course, you know. Freezing, didn't sleep all night. And in the morning, and there were must have been other people went elsewhere, but I don't know where they all went. In the morning, the snowplough went through the road between Kirkmichael and Cross Hill to save us. And my parents and my aunt and uncle, actually, there were 4 of them, they walked, my mum and dad walked from Windy Hill to Cross Hill, and the boys from the village set off themselves in the morning to walk back to school. But there were some young ones. I was in 4th year at the time, and as I said, I was the oldest. But there were wee first year pupils there and that, and they'd got lost in the snow. So we all stayed together. There were about 10 of us, and we all walked home together and got back to the village. The snowplough went through up at Balbrethen, is that the farm? Now, you know, the road's deep cut in there, the snow was right up to the fences. It was right up on either side of it, just a wee passage through it. But we walked all the way back. And the Blaines were up in the tin houses at the time. And Jim and Rose Blaine, they had Billy and Jim were their sons. Billy was left school, but Jim was in about 2nd year, he was just a wee boy, 1st year, 2nd year, something like that. And they got home. Rose Blaine had to cut the buttons off Jim's jacket to get it off him because it was caked in ice and snow, and she had to cut the buttons and peel this thing off him. That's what it was like. Now, it only lasted a couple of days and then disappeared because it was a springtime of year. But that's something I have, now there are people up at the top village who must have been there as well. Like Jim Maguire must have been there. Unless he didn't go to school that day or something. People like that, Margaret Harbison, these people must have been at school at that point.
Hugh McConnell would have been.
You know, he'd left school. See, they left school at 15, they all left school at 15. I was still 15, but I was at school.
What year was this from? 1960?
1965.
65.
But if you come across any of these people, you might, I wonder if they remember it, because I've got a picture of that as well. I can send you a picture of that when we were setting off to walk back home again. So I know, I can't off the top of my head remember who was all there, because we were all collected from various houses and walked back.
So you've got a photo? Very good.
Hubert was working in Maple at that time, and he walked home. It was like a snowman.
It was
Like a
unbelievable,
snowman.
Unbelievable considering the time of year, wasn't it? A freak, it was really a freak storm. But that's just, I mean, that was an event.
Yes,
It
big
turned out
event.
quite well.
Right, well, thank you very much for that, Kay, and all the rest of it, as I said already. And if you have any other things you want to add, pass it either through me or Colin. I know he's got loads and loads of stuff, and I don't envy his job trying to edit all this, but I mean, thank you, because these stories and
We'll end up with lost, and that's
Yeah.
great to hear, really.
It's been great hearing them, but